I am sure sports. You know me there, from coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get the sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never see no game, me no know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you are gonna love over here so.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crapper players. We are good enough. Remember to like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Made up of 18 Jamaican herbs and spices, add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Trick Nick Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
Trick Nick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
William Dip Memorial High School D-Cup Alumni presents its third annual fundraising barbecue on Memorial Day, May 30th, 2022. Wear your favorite jersey to Wilson Wood Park in Mount Vernon, New York. Remember to take exit 12 off the Hutchinson River Parkway. Music by DJ Mad Max of Sound 1000. Proceeds to aid the William Dip High School Da Costa Cup team. For more information, contact Keegan 304-607-4034. Our Codfish at 954-639-2991. Proud of people, it's important. Remember, make sure say Ono did that.
All right. Good morning, my people. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I am Man in This Man, and welcome to I Am Sure Sports. We have, our Friday football show with Coach Andrew Edwards. So I'm going to invite you to jump on. He's already here, and we are going to discuss, a very interesting topic this morning on our program. But before I do so, want to say big up to my friend Mr. Gregory Messam Sr. And so this is his devotions. If you are his friend, he sent you one of these this morning, and I'm going to share from you. He says, good morning, family and friends. Stay blessed. Much love. He says, good morning, blessing to you and yours. The words of Jah said, no one can be a believer and an unbeliever at the same time. To believe in anything, we must levitate ourselves. Levitate means that to set apart for divine or spiritual purposes and uses. To vivaciously commit oneself to a particular course of thought or movement, a levitation of Jah, the higher power. To be a believer requires that we be levitated to Jah in the sense that we are in the world but not of it. That doesn't mean we must remain aloof from unbelievers, but that we are to avoid close personal ties to them that could compromise our spiritual and moral position. We must be wise unto the words of Jah, Jehovah, the Lord my righteousness, Jehovah, the Lord who satisfy. Shalom, Jehovah, the Lord is peace. Shama, Jehovah, the Lord is here. Rapha, Jehovah, the Lord who heals. Jireh, Jehovah, the Lord who provides. Nisi, Jehovah, the Lord my banner. Ha, Jehovah, the Lord my shepherd. I call upon your name this morning. Selah. Yeah, says heart of love for life. Yeah, good words from my dear friend, and I hope they serve to inspire you. Before we go any further as well, I want to say a big thank you to the sponsors of this video. They are Launch Legacy. Yes, Launch Legacy, where they handle risk and seek a legacy for all your personal insurance needs. In Canada and the USA, visit Launch Legacy at launchlegacy.com or call or text them at at 647-989-0782. Also, to Prestige Finance, where they're lending a helping hand when you need it the most. Call them at 876-884-7390. They're located in Linston, St. Catherine, Jamaica, and they're offering loans of up to $100,000 Jamaican dollars. Yes, you can check them out and get a loan at 0 to 4% interest rate with low or no processing fee and same day processing. Without any further ado, as you come on in, please make sure you hit the like button. If you have not yet subscribed to the platform. Share the content. This is going to be good. Send it to someone and say, listen, you need to come and tune into this now. Right? We're going to dissect an article by Miguel Coley in the Observer on One from Paul Hall when he spoke recently and talk about more specifically the developmental environment for football. And so we have with us this morning again, as usual. Yes, well, I'm the guest and he's the host now. His name is Mr. Andrew C. Edwards. In other words, that C means chief. Andrew Chief Edwards. He's the chief of this thing. And he's also wearing his Gunners jersey. I'm telling you, people, this is going to be good. You understand me? When two guns collide, there's going to be a shootout. All right. Sir Edwards, good morning. Welcome to I Am Sure Sports. Hope all is well.
Blessed morning, man. Blessed morning to all those on the call already. Yeah, God is good and we are alive and well, so we give thanks, All other things are bonuses.
Amen. Yeah, man. Wonderful. Well, looking forward to today's discussion, right? As we talk about, the idea of being, the kind of environment that needs to be created for proper development from the grassroots level of football. And I mean, you have been exposed to different places in terms of your coaching career. You have been in different environments, and so I want you to begin by just sharing from your own perspective. Firstly, when you think about environment for developing talent, because you get talent, how do you move it from being ordinary to exceptional or world class? What kind of environment necessitates that development taking place?
So the article you referenced at the top of the conversation was written by Miguel Coley, a new feature in the Jamaica Observer where they invite guest columnists.
Sorry, I have to cut you right. I just got an important message from this must be a friend of yours. Why they call you Sir Aki?
Aki?
Yeah.
Oh, no, me that.
I'm telling you. Yes, this person call you Sir Aki,
Really?
Yeah, I'm not going to. He's a former footballer, but go ahead. Hey,
All
I'm not
right.
going.
I don't know about that
You're
one.
watching
But go
a
ahead.
footballer. I'm not going to call out any name because the man don't know that name, so don't call him no Sir Aquino. All right. But go ahead, sir. Sorry
Yeah,
about
man. Okay, so we're saying now, Miguel wrote this article about creating a good environment, and it's an interesting place to start the conversation today. Actually, the article is titled "Finding That Good Place in Jamaica's Football Development." And in our off-year discussion earlier, we talked about the fact that finding that good place, and put that in quotation mark, literally has more elements to it that require very little or no financial input versus those that require financial outlays. We talk about simple things like safeguarding in sports, which is a very, very important part of football these days. I remember when I started my coaching journey, um, it was not unusual for myself and players to be taking showers on camp in an outdoor space almost at the same time or passing each other along the way. You do that in today's environment, you could find yourself in a lot of problems, and it is literally not an environment that should be. Yeah. I remember when I did the safeguarding course with FIFA, I actually had to challenge a situation when they were talking about, for example, the types of beds that kids sleep on camps. And I'm saying like, wow, we have to stick up in here because cultural relevance is important in the discussion, because typically Jamaican high schools, which I am accustomed to, you go on a camp, you basically throw a mattress on some desk up on the floor and everybody sleep, everybody all right. Now, in the European context, that would be seen as child abuse, But let us use some more globally relevant things. Simple things like calling kids by names, or shouting at them in a demeaning way. Not because we all shout, but there's a difference if you're shouting at a player to encourage him or to demand more of him than if you're shouting at him to berate him and to chide him and chastise him or her. So those are some critical elements. Having conversations with players, there's a incident that I am personally aware of involving a colleague of mine who he had a conversation with a player, and this is an adult player in private, and that player took portions of that conversation to another place, and the coach ended up in a situation where he was unable to defend himself, right? And so as a part of safeguarding practices, best practice, we are always advised never to speak to a player by yourself, right? Especially in a closed room. So those are just some very simple things. Another thing is, for example, is the training environment safe? Meaning, are there broken bottles or bottle stoppers on the field? Is the goalpost likely to fall over on a player? Those are very simple things that most oftentimes we take for granted, right? But they are real dangers to the players, and that is part and parcel of creating a good environment, as Miguel alluded to.
Yeah, so let me read. Let me just cite some of what the article says, so people can get like a context of what you're talking about, because they don't want it to sound like, "Whoa, this is over my head. Never knew." So it says, creating and maintaining a good place in sport is the first of the three main components needed to create quality sports, right? According to the Pan Am Sports and Sports for Life Canada in 2021, it says the other two components within the long-term athlete development models are good people and good program, right? Good people, good program. And he says, come with me as I tackle the issue of creating quality football in Jamaica. A good place compromises of physical and non-physical dimensions. So when you're talking about a good place for development, it's speaking about good place and the physical and the non-physical, which you were alluding to. He
Correct.
says some of the elements of a good non-physical place includes welcoming, right? Safe, which is
Yes.
what you're talking about. Inclusive, right? Regardless of religious belief, but all players feel feel, there's a sense of I'm a part of this.
Yes, I
Always say
belong
to
here.
people,
I belong.
yeah, because people must not just believe in something, they must feel like they belong to it. So with
Absolutely.
the creator team, it's not just I believe that we should win the trophy, but I belong to this. So he says a good welcoming, then safe, inclusive. Then it says holistic. So it is not just getting the person to play some football. It's
No, man, you have to
holistic.
care about him well-being,
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah. So let me
And
give
we
people
talked
an
about that in the last discussion too.
yeah, exactly. That people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
You care,
Before
exactly.
you ask for a hand, touch a heart.
Simple.
Yeah, you understand me? So get involved in the player's life. Then he says it must be fun, which is what I'm going to ask you to talk about that a little bit. Fear. I want you to talk about that because I think the fun in football is being lost because we have become so competitive that the fun is gone and fairness is gone.
True.
Right? He says foster, then the other one is foster gender equality and where safeguarding protocols are adhered to. All right? So I want you to take those things: fun, fair, welcoming, inclusive, holistic, fostering gender equality, and just any one of those things you think, because I would love for you in particular to talk about this idea of fun in football, especially at the grassroots level, how important it is. But let me just say, you have already some comments. So let's big up Boss Thomas. Brian Maiten is saying that he wants to link with you. He's a rookie manager at Mullines, and he says he wants to connect with you because he's always willing to learn. So he's asking me to do that. Mr. War, blessings, greeting from Turks and Caicos, man, and Mr. Edwards, all the way from the Turks. Bless up, Sir Wa. Yeah, man. And then bless up, Mr. Denton, for the super sticker, much appreciated. And Stefan Wright, welcome to the show. All right, so Coach, you go ahead now. What needs to happen for fun and fairness to be in the football? Can we
All right.
create a culture where winning?
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so let me just start with the first one, which is welcoming, right? In the article.
All right, I think don't worry, we'll get back. He will come back and seem like we lost the connection right there, right? So let me read some more from the article. So this is an article in the Sunday Observer from Coach Miguel Coley, right? That was the non-physical environment. He says of the physical environment, he says a good physical place alludes to quality infrastructure, safe equipment, and surroundings that will promote growth and development. Right? He says a good place is important as it attracts a diverse range of football players from different socio-economic backgrounds. This further allows for a larger pool of talent and support needed. Important things to note. He says a good place is also a safe place. And in Jamaica, where there is a high level of crime and violence, we need a good place that will not be a microcosm of the society, but engender positive change. A good place is essentially because of the greater awareness on mental health. Remember, we're talking about football. As such, it's important to ensure that good places in football promotes sustenance and emotional and psychological health. A good place can be anywhere once it includes the three components of quality in sports based on the LATD model. It would be remiss of me to overlook the fact that footballers have been performing at a high level in environments that are contrary to the good place model. Again, it says, however, it does not mean we cannot improve to develop a good place for the talent in football, to build a solid foundation and achieve along the podium pathway. Creating quality in football is not an instantaneous thing, right? It is a process which will require all hands on deck. Essential to this process will be good leadership, where egos are put aside, removal of the resistance to change, a proper business. I want you to listen to this, people. This is the kind of conversation we need to have. Let me read it again. Creating quality in football is not an instantaneous thing. It's a process which will require all hands on deck. Essential to this process will be good leadership, where egos are put aside, removal of the resistance to change, a proper business module, education, collaboration with non-governmental organizations, NGOs, the inclusion of women in club administration, systematic governance, and a long-term developmental model that encourages past players to return as support staff or in a leadership role. As we embark on a journey to revamp and improve the quality of football in Jamaica, a good place is the best place to start. All right. Coach Andrew Edwards is back. I was just reading the rest of the article, but go ahead. You were talking to before it started, giving some challenges with the internet about the fun, the fairness, and I thought you were talking about welcoming at first.
Yes. Apologies again for that, colleagues. That's somewhat out of control. Yeah. All right. So we're talking about welcoming, and I think earlier we mentioned that people must feel as though they belong to something. So I remember when I coached the national under-17 teams, right? There were players who came in and you could see from the outset that they didn't feel as though they were a part of it. You know, they were a part of it, but they did not belong. And as a coach, it is your responsibility to change that. And it so happens that one of those players who turned out to be one of the top performers for us in the CONCACAF round is Nathaniel Adamaluken. He's from the United States. His mother is Jamaican and his father is Nigerian. Right? And when he came, he literally would not come out of his room any at all. And it had something to do with what was said to him when he arrived by somebody in the environment. So that alone can affect how people feel as though they belong. So it took some work to get him to feel as though this was an environment to which he belonged and that he was welcome to be a member of the team, etc., etc. Outside of that, though, it is not unusual for us to see a training session and players arrive, the coach already have his session set up, and he might probably just say, okay, gentlemen, we're doing this evening. And there's no little, break the ice kind of a thing, especially with youth players, kids. This is very important. And we are taught in our various coaching courses that this is a very important part. So, for example, when I meet with my kids at the academy, Genesis, one of the very first things every evening, how was school today? Did everybody attend school? Did you have lunch? That kind of thing. So you're establishing a relationship with them. You're making them feel welcome. They feel as though, as you, in your own words, that it's not just about them coming to play, but you really care about them. Yeah, and I think that is important. The next step is to get the players themselves now to start greeting each other when they come. Billy Gardner talks a story all the time about when he went to Bolton. It took him a couple of days to catch on to the culture where people try to reach early for training so that they would not have to greet everybody who was there when they arrive. So how it works, in Baby's own words, is that when you enter the changing room for training, you have to literally walk around and give a handshake to everybody else who is there already. You know, good morning, man, how you do? Good morning, so and so, how you do? And so forth, so forth. And that is part of the whole vibe of creating a community, you know, one in which everybody feels a part. We talk about the whole fun thing, right? And we say that we're not having the fun in football or so. I don't agree totally, but I get where you're coming from with it, right? As coaches, there's a lot of things that we need to do to make sure the environment is fun for the players. So in training, for example, you have to have activities. You have to sometimes behave like a child with them. You know, so like when I'm doing my grassroots things, sometimes I take on some of the cartoon characters that they like to appreciate. You know, sometimes you design your training session to also reflect some of the cartoons and games that they like to play. You know, I use little character traits. So, for example, you're teaching dribbling. You can set up like a rectangle, for example, and you have 2 or 3 persons on their knees or stomach, for example, and they pretend to be like sharks or crocodiles then. So you have to cross the river, all right, with your ball. And it's about navigating with, they like those little things, you understand? And those are just a few things. But with children and youth players, I think a big part of it is to not focus too heavily on results, but on performance. And last week when we spoke, we talked about performance and evaluation, right? I give you a real life example. Manchester High School girls football team played against Garvey Massio last week, Friday. Garvey Massio is one of the favorites for the championship this year.
They're coached by Meron Garden.
Meron Garden and Dane Chambers, right?
Right.
Many time champion coaches.
Yeah.
And
at Lennon, I think.
Yes, at Lennon, correct. Now, before they went down to Clarendon to play the game, it so happened that the Thursday night, I was a part of a meeting with the coach. And Barry Watson was jibing and say, you're going to get at least 10 tomorrow down at Clarendon. They went and they played the game. The game ended 8-1. So one of the young ladies, I saw her. Her mom and my wife work together and they are very close. So I know the young lady. And we were having a quick conversation. So I said, how was the game? And she held down her head and I said, I'm not talking about the results, Abby. You know, how was the game? She said, well, it wasn't so bad, especially the first half. All right. The second half. She said, Garvey must have scored most of their goals in the first half. I said, well, that's good. I said, you also scored a goal. So that means it wasn't all that bad, right? Then I asked her about her personal performance. And she said, well, she had a man-marking job on one of Garvey Massey's top players. And she wasn't able to score or even kick a shot in the game. At that moment, she started to put a smile on her face. And I said, that's what you want to do. You engage yourself. So I'm sharing that experience to show you that as coaches, we have a responsibility to help the players to find that moment of excellent performance, of good performance that will make them have that smile on their faces. You know, and we have to develop activities within the group to create that kind of fun environment, and also not take everything too seriously. You know, yes, as a coach, you are evaluated and measured by your success on the field and how much you win or as against how much you lose. But if you look at the broader picture, that you are not just coaching a football player, but you are impacting a human being and creating and affecting a person's life forever, then you have to also not take everything too seriously, and you have to develop things like sympathy and empathy and a little bit more care, you know, because, for example, I had a young man come out to training the other day, and he was just being mischievous. And I asked him, you know, why is he being like that? And he said, Coach, me just hungry, man. Me just hungry. Now, in a different situation, that could turn out differently, yeah? So those are just some of the little things when we talk about fun. Now, in terms of fairness, when it comes to grassroots, especially, a lot of the projects that I have looked at across the world, and especially in Europe, to a lesser extent in Central America, and definitely in North America, meaning USA and Canada especially, they have some rules that speaks to minimum play time per day, per game, etc., etc. And that is one we are dealing with fairness. But incidentally, I am a part of a coaches group, an international coaches group called Ask the Coach. And somebody posed a question in the group last week. And one coach came back and said that they talk about play for merit or play based on the rules. And he said he put it as a vote to the players. Right? And the players unanimously voted for play on merit. So, in other words, you're a part of the team management, but you don't want to play just because the rules say you must play. You want to earn your right to play. So again, these things are, to somebody watching, is unfair. But to you, the player in the environment who understands what is happening, you are being treated fairly because you have put your hand up and say, coach, don't play me if I don't merit to play.
No,
but let's, before let's make your point, man, but let's take a pin. You will know why you're not being played because there's a process, a very open process of evaluation that you participate with the coach and your teammates. So you know that your performance targets are not being met or they are being exceeded.
Yeah, what I will say is that where you have a system, for example, when in our school system, let's use, and I'm going to use primary school because I don't want to say primary prep school. Let me be very general because I don't want to implicate anyone. You have a primary school competition that is around, some of them are 11 aside, which is firstly too much at the primary level. All right, so we're going to get to that, right? Even when they play like 8 aside or 9 aside, 8 aside, sometimes they play the Alberga Cup and those competitions, it's 8 or 9 aside or 7 aside. So you have a squad of players of 21. So 21 persons are in the team, but it is a 7-a-side competition. All right? And out of that 21, 10 are grade 6, which are bigger players, stronger players, most times, and probably, I would say, probably the better players. Your grade 5,
more developed.
Right, more developed. But because it is a prep school, you'll have like grade 3s, and you don't have a separate like under 8 and you don't have age group. You just have prep school league primarily.
Correct.
So you have 21 players. You know, to win, if you put your grade 3 players out there, they are going to lose because they probably will be matching up against other grade 6. And so there's no distinction in age group. Those players go through an entire season of, say, 13 games, training every day, and never go on the field.
And that is very, very unfortunate. Really, really
never
unfortunate.
At all go on the field.
And I can't speak from a position of knowing, but I want to believe that these are some of the things that the JFF is addressing and we'll see happening in the near future in terms of age structures. So within the primary school, why not have like a under 9 and then a under 11 or a under 12? You know, so at least you can have better. But outside of that though, do we have to actually put rules in place to say players must play a maximum of so much minutes for the game and a minimum of so much? That's another option, you know, because the truth be told, management, we are animalistic in nature. And if we don't have a pen around us to keep us constrained, then we do what we want to do. You understand? And so that is why rules and regulations are necessary.
So I do agree with the merit argument, you know. You ought to play on merit. That is in an environment at the grassroots level where there are age distinctions.
Of course.
Clearly outlined.
Absolutely. And in those environments, to your point, most of the the structures. You'll have, for example, starting at under 7. So you'll have under 7, under 9, under 10, under 11, and so on. So you won't have a team, for example, that is an under 10 team that has 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds in it, right?
Exactly.
They will have their own
So that way, people are going to play, because you'll have, if you look at the school football, you'll have less people, say, on the 11 to 12 team. Because your grade 6 and your grade 5 probably not as huge a population as, say, your grade 3, grade 4.
Absolutely.
And I think that is something that has to happen, because as a coach, some of these coaches are also hired by schools, by prep schools. It's a paid job.
Which again is a bit unfortunate, and I think that is something that needs to be regulated.
Yeah.
Because I have watched a number of prep and primary school football competitions, and I have actually pointed out a number of the irregularities and inconsistencies. So a simple thing like the size of the goal, for example, right? I come to play you at your school, and the field is, let's say, 40 meters by 20 meters, and the goal is 16 feet wide by 6 feet high. You come back to play at my field, and the field is 70 meters long, and the goal is just 12 feet wide by 4 feet high. All sorts of things, right? And then you have to talk about 8 and 10, 11 players. So these are things that I think will be regulated in the not too distant future. But the more fundamental point, though, is the whole thing about winning. And
yes,
it's about winning. So, for example, I see one of our friends here have a comment, Duclan Stennett, about don't want my players to smile after losing. I want them to bawl their eyes out. Now, I hope he's making a joke, because you couldn't be serious. You want your players to perform for you another day, right? And you want them to cry their hearts out. Then how are you going to motivate them to come and raise their performance the next game? On the one hand, but why would you really want them to cry? Did they not do anything at all correct? Right? Yeah. Even when you lose, if you have to go down to the minutest level, which is the individual, every player must have done at least one thing correct for the entire game.
Well, John,
and that is the point we're trying to emphasize. Yeah. That yes, you lose the game, but you don't want to stress the players with the result again. Yeah. Focus on the performance indicators that can say to Andrew, hey, I like that strong tackle that you went in on Manning's man. That was clean and strong, and you won the ball fairly. Can you repeat that 3 more times the next game? And so on. So that way now you're building up the players, and they will get the confidence to go out and express themselves. And
not only that, 2 things I'll say to add to what you just said, because it's so critical. 2 things. One is a quote by John Maxwell. John Maxwell says, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. He says he speaks that to people. Because the general phrase that is used is sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. He says, and he goes on to say, listen, why I don't use lose is because when I don't win, it's my learning experience. It is what do I learn. So the result may not go my way, but I may get such a great lesson that transforms my entire life. And absolutely. I think that is what you're saying is that why focus on the result? Because the truth is, say for example, I'm at a school that don't have the kind of program and the kind of resources. I may not win the Manning Cup or the DaCosta Cup. So how do I define what is a win for me? A win for me could be that, listen, even if I lose all the games or I tie some, but I don't have any victories, all right, I don't concede. Maybe last year I conceded 10 goals. This year I conceded only 1 even against the big teams. But at the end of it, I have 2 players who I have developed that ends up in the under 15 or under 17. That could be defined as my win.
Of course, it's a big win. But even on a social level, man, if you are coaching in a school system and all the players that you coach graduate from school and become functional citizens contributing positively to the society, that's a massive win, right? Compared to players who probably win all the competitions and end up on the street corner rubbing out them on the middle every time you pass. Well, go on, boss man, nothing now go on for me, no make something go on. No. Those are things that nobody wants to talk about, but it's a part of the development process, right? Now, for me personally, all right, and this is one of the things that we're going to get to eventually in the conversation, is long-term development is very important. All right, from the time I started coaching on a consistent basis back in 2001, I've always had objectives written down that I want to accomplish. All right, and one of those objectives has always been to produce players who represent Jamaica. Always. So whether we win the Costa Cup, yes or no, that objective is never lost. Knock on wood, as old people would say, and give God thanks, I've managed to create a few, or help to produce a few players who have gone on to represent the country. All right. Now, if you start out by just wanting to win, it is less likely that you are going to develop those kinds of players. Because to do that, you have to begin to not focus only on the results, but on the performance and the development of those performances over a period of time. In other words, you have to be able to see into the future. What is this player likely to become? What assets does he have now that can bring him closest to that objective? How far am I personally able to take him? At what point am I able to wean him to Manningsman, to wean him to Paul Teagat Davis, to wean him to Fuzzy, or whichever other coach you want to think of? Because the fact of the matter is, some of us can take a player only this far, and we can't take them no further. All right, but I want to just reverse a quick second to speak to something when you talk about the John Maxwell matter of winning and losing. Usain Bolt, easily the greatest sprinter of all times, on the male side for sure. I have seen and read him saying that one of the first things he learned from Coach Glenn Mills was how to lose. And I'm saying this as a matter of factly speaking, that as a coach, I have learned a lot much more about myself and my players in losing than I have learned in winning.
Yeah, and let me add to that, because brain drain and Duckland, we are not saying that players will not cry, because everybody express their emotions differently. All right, but your job as a coach is not to get them to cry, to make them feel so bad that they want to cry. So when there are many players, you go to a final and you lose it, you are going to cry because you lost the final. That's not the point. The bigger point you're making is not that. Is now when that crying takes place, what are you going to do? Yes, say, yes, man, I saw enough cry. No, you don't do that. You look and say, listen, we have not gone to like, good example. Mannings went to the finals of the Da Costa Cup, and they got blown away by Garvey Massey. All right, in the finals. Of course, the players were devastated and they cried. No, listen. In my conversation, it wasn't about you never did good. No. This is it. Listen, this is the first time that they have advanced to the finals.
Big accomplishment.
Right.
Massive accomplishment.
Massive. Exactly. You can focus on, imagine all of this and money. No. What they accomplish is still great. So we are not saying that they should not cry, but our job is not to get them to cry.
Our job is to create a good environment that is fun, that will cause these players to want to continue. Because why we want to have fun in the sport, especially at the grassroots level, right, is that we want to encourage players to stay in the game longer. So in Jamaica, we are not very big on records and data collection and these things. All right. However, at the FIFA level, there are there are universities charged with the responsibilities of researching these things. And there are other football associations that actually have their own department, research and data collection departments that does these things. Football literally is a pyramid like this. At the very base, you have the grassroots, right, which is 12 and under. And within the grassroots, you would probably have, let us say in Jamaica, for example, there are 200,000 people playing football from the lowest level to the highest. At the grassroots level, it is very likely that you have 120, 130,000 of those people. Which means that the higher up the pyramid we get, the less people are making it there. A lot of them do not get to the pinnacle, not because they are incapable or they lack talent. They don't get there because they get frustrated with the football. They lose their appetite for it. They lose their love for it. Of course, there are those who get injured and so on. So, if we, in a small country like Jamaica, where we have such a small population playing the sport, we should not be excited to to have an environment that causes people to turn their backs on the sport. All right. I gave an example. I think I spoke this the first time we did an interview with Manningsman. When I studied in Germany, shortly before we left, there was a question raised about what is the prototype midfielder of the future. And then we look at the characteristics of what that midfielder is going to be capable of, physically, technically, and tactically. Then we look at the modern players and try to identify which players in the game came closest to these character traits. Okay? The player that came closest to the character traits was Paul Pogba. The German Football Association in 2014 charged their coaches across the country to identify 5,000 boys 9 years old who had the physical profile to become that midfielder of the future. The physical profile, 5,000 9-year-old. We don't have 5,000 9-year-olds playing football in Jamaica. But we want to go and compete against Germany. The same thing is happening in the United States. That has 300 million people. So while some of these things might seem frivolous to some people, these things are the important details that goes into creating a team that can win and qualify for World Cup.
And we're talking about, and let me say it again, let me re-emphasize, all right? Let me just take this comment and then I'm going to read the next one because I don't want us to, all right, we have to learn to keep the conversation where the conversation is. Don't go ahead of the conversation, all right? I'm going to come back to that and explain it. So the coach shaped the core of the team. In other words, if the team takes on an emotional attitude from the coach, it can affect the performance of the team in a good or a bad way. Well said. All right, Duckland says this. We criticize our pros for laughing or even smiling after losing. I just want to know if there is a time for teaching that level of hunger that the top pros have, because they cuss and cry when they lose. All right, let me say this, right? Remember, the conversation is built around this concept. If you look at the thumbnail, it says creating proper environment for development. So when we are speaking, we're talking about kids between 5 and 12 years old. Because that is a core part of your development where you're going to develop probably the passion and the love for the game.
And we can expand it up to 17 years old.
Oh, let's go up to 17.
Where we talk about pre-professional.
Right. So the first age group is from 5 to around 12, and then from 13 to 17. When you're talking about that first category, when they lose a game, getting them to cry because of it as a coach cannot be healthy. Because it's about fun and learning at that time. You understand me? Will they cry? Yes. Remember, that is the stage we're talking about. Generally, when a child runs my son go to sports day. If they're running sports day and they come second, they're upset and they cry. But do I go and say, well, I mean, you should have won the race? That's what we're saying. That crying must be used as a means of teaching a lesson. What is the lesson? All right. Listen, you did well. Start out right there. Listen, you did well. Could have done better. What can we do to make it better next time? Because crying about something don't make you do better at it the second time around.
And it depends on the reason for crying.
Exactly.
It depends on the reason for crying.
Yeah,
but I mean, we don't have to spend too much time making the point, because at the end of the day, man is man. It's not about winning souls. You know, it's about sharing information for learning and learning to share. You know, so what we know and understand to be good and best practices, we share that. Those who have a different perspective, we respect that, because there's the fact of the matter is that there's no one way to do anything at all and to get results. You understand? I just want to make it very clear that we're not talking about a results-based environment here. We're talking about a developmental-based environment, which are two separate things. So for those persons who are probably not understanding that, it is very important that we're very clear. If we're talking about pro environment, the only thing that matters is winning. Yeah. If we're talking about the level below the pro environment, the only thing that matters is winning. But we are talking about a developmental-based development environment. So that is totally different. Winning is not the only thing. You're learning how to win. And in the words of Usain Bolt, Glenn Mills taught him how to lose before teaching him how to win. All right? So when you have those negative emotions from losing, it is actually a good thing, because now you know that, oh, this means something to me. So I don't want players who they lose and they don't feel anything. But I must now transfer that negative emotion into positive execution on the field of learning, so that the next time they go out now, they can execute better and therefore get closer to winning performances, if not actually doing so. You know?
Yeah, we are at the 52nd minute mark, and so Paul recently also shared about, you know, a 10-year plan, not a contract, but a 10-year developmental plan. So let's discuss that in terms of is 10 years, which is two World Cup cycles.
2.5 World Cup cycles.
2.5 World Cup cycles. Ample time to get a nation shaped to consistently qualify for the World Cup. And what happens during that time? Is it no World Cup qualification, but until after the 10 years? Or if it happens, how does that developmental process work in terms of the stages? When we have a fan base that wants to see the team in the World Cup, but we know that there are fundamental things that needs to be done to get it to the place where the wheels keep churning and we keep going into the World Cup. And that may mean possibly going 6-8 years without a next one. You have the job, your job is on the line. How does that developmental process work in the context of all of those things? And what are your thoughts on the 10-year plan?
All right, so you're asking a lot of questions all at once, but I feel like this is right up my street, my alleyway, something that I think I relate to very, very well. I'll start by saying that you don't need to take the word of Andrew Edwards on this one. Just go and look, you don't even need a deep dive. You can take a shallow dive into what France did before winning the World Cup in 1998. Take a look at what Spain did before winning the World Cup in 2010. Take a look at what Germany did before winning the World Cup in 2014. Take a look at what Costa Rica did before going to the quarterfinals of the World Cup in, was that 2006, I think, or 2014, one of them. All right, take a look. All of these countries have one thing in common, that they initiated a program that went at least 10 years back. Take Wales, for example. 10 years ago, Wales was ranked 118 in the world. They revamped their technical development program with a view to being a top 20 nation. It has taken them exactly 10 years to be now ranked number 18 in the world of football. So when Paul Hall came out and says he wants us to have a 10-year development plan, Paul Hall is not presenting himself as a genius that is coming from space with solutions that with a solution package that is brand new. What he's basically communicating, as far as I personally understand it, is that, hey, how we have been going about this thing is literally like when you go out on the road and a crown and anchor man shake him cup and throw it over, and we bet pan anchor and hope the anchor come up and we collect. No. What we want to do is to be very deliberate. When we make the dice and know, say when the crown and anchor man shake, as long as we put it on anchor, a source of anchor upon the dice. So no matter how we shake, I just anchor alone and come up. Which means we're always going to be able to produce our way into success. It's not rocket science. The United States have already come out and said a year back, more than a year now, that this team that we are looking at is the team that they have been preparing from 2012 to be the World Cup champions in 2026. Right? So, whatever we want to think about it, Paul Hall don't need to have the job, because the truth be told is that a long-term development plan is in a real way the remit of the technical director, whose job is to prepare the football of the future. Those are the exact words according to FIFA. Right? The head coach prepares the next game. So in other words, the head coach is being evaluated on a game-by-game basis. The technical director, his job or her job is to prepare the football of the future. So that is where the 10-year development plan comes into place. Should we shelf qualifying for 2026 and 2030 while we work on a 10-year plan? Absolutely no. However, we are planting some seeds now. We're planting some oak trees now. And we know that in 10 years' time, we can cut these oak and make some solid barrels and furniture out of these. We're going to last for another 100 years. That is the mentality that we have to develop. And it is unfortunate because you see in Jamaica, across all spectrum of our social society, with the exception of the big companies like a Grace Kennedy, for example, we don't generally have long-term strategic planning as a way of life. So I saw one of our colleagues talk about China taking over the world in a couple of decades' time. And he might be very right and onto something. But then the question that he's probably not answering in that statement is, how long ago has China been on that mission? Yeah? How long? One of the famous Chinese, we call them now, saying or parables says that Proverbs, right? It says that if you want, I don't remember a word for word, but long and short of it, at the very end of it, it speaks about three things, right? About planting rice and so on. It's and planting trees. But if you want to plan for generations, educate people. So we have to educate our coaches, we have to educate our spectators, and we have to educate our society as a whole about having a long-term view. Right now, if we should say, all right, I have been talking to my wife for probably 6 years now about Jamaica hosting and winning an under-17 World Cup. All right, and when I mentioned it outside of the bedroom, people might say, "I'm crazy." But if a person like Craig Butler would say, that is something that we can do. But before we can do it, we can't wait until we get to 2026 or 2028. Start putting a plan like that. As a matter of fact, I believe if that is something that Jamaica wants to do, right, for 2030. If 2023 comes and the plan is not in motion, we are late. Way too late. It should already be in motion. But 2023 would be the latest, I would say, that something like that can happen.
It can need to be activated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to, it's just like a man building a house, you know. You go draw a plan and you look on it and you say, yeah, man. And in today's world, the man give you a 3D model of your house and you look on it and you say, sure, no. And you feel really excited, you know. But yes, when you go and look on the land, and you say, boom, here, you have so much rock stone, man. And you have to go get excavator now and all, probably dynamite to blast out the land to dig the foundation and stuff. But every year, when you come back from foreign, or every month when you come down from town, or you come up from west or wherever, and you look on the property and you see the foundation dig out, and you see the steel man put in some steel, and you see 2 blocks start lay, and you see window and door. All of a sudden now, you know, you start to get a better appreciation for your plan and you start to feel more accomplished. Now, I know every man will start build a house living night. I know every man will start build a house living night. And that is why we as Jamaicans have to become fixated on the mindset that we set this 20-year plan in motion, this 10-year plan in motion. We don't have to be there at the end of it.
Exactly. I think we touched on. I think Brain Drain is also he found the quote, the Chinese,
yes,
right?
Give thanks, General.
Yeah, man. If your plan is for 1 year, plant rice. If your plan is for 10 years, plant trees. If your plan is for 100 years, educate
children.
Educate children. Are you talking about
right.
education? Yes, but thank you, Brain Drain. But I will also say this, right? I think Paul should have said 20 years.
You know, 20 years is not bad, but the truth is, all right, take the Belgian, because I didn't mention Belgium when I was listing out the countries with the 10-year success stories. But Belgium, I actually have that plan on my computer. I can share it with you.
Okay.
That plan was written by Michel Sablon, right? When he was technical director of Belgium. When that plan was implemented, don't hold me to it, but I think it was 2006. Romelu Lukaku, Eden Hazard, and all of these great Belgian players, Kevin De Bruyne, were all 12 years or younger. All of them were 12 years or younger when that plan was first rolled out in Belgium. So when we look at our current 12 and under, that is the lowest base, the lowest part of the base, right? Then you move it up now to say 16, 17 as the top. So if you think about it in this sense, this part down here would be your 12-year-olds, and up here would be your 17-year-olds. So all the players in this bandwidth is really the ones that you are seeking to affect positively with a 10
over the next 10 years. Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Now, up here in 10 years, these players are going to be what? 27 years old.
27, yes.
Which by scientific data and studies, that is the age when you're at your prime.
Yeah.
Excepting if you're a goalkeeper. Right?
Yeah.
Then, because it is a continuous revolving thing, you know, these players who are at the base, they are going to get to this point in 15 years. So your 20-year plan that you're talking about is just coming into the third trimester, the third part of it. It's
actually 2 10-year cycles. I think. You understand me? So I agree with Coach Paul Hall. But let me tell you, the national anthem says something very important. It says, give us vision.
Let's be perish.
And I always say to people, there's a difference between vision and sight. A lot of people have sight, but they don't have vision.
It's a reality. But one is bad. Before you go on, I would want to go out on a limb and boldly say, for those persons who disagree with the 10-year development plan, I would say boldly, and it would take some doing for me to retract that. That anybody with that mindset don't believe in our football and don't love it. Because there's no way you can say you love the football without having that kind of picture.
Yeah, I'll say that these are the people who have sight but no vision.
That's another way of putting it.
I always tell people this: a blind man can have vision, you know.
Of course.
He may not have
But
sight.
vision is not about what you can see literally, you know.
Okay, there
It
you
is
go.
what you are able to imagine.
The problem with Jamaica is that we have become a society that we don't whatever we want, it has to be in the know.
Yes.
And anything beyond that.
Sprint factory, you know.
Yeah. Right.
But guess what happened now?
Right.
But guess what happened now? You see, I like to talk about Usain, you know, and it's a good thing today is a Friday because him always posting motivational thing on him Instagram and him Twitter on a Friday daytime. All right. Usain Bolt did an interview after I think the 2008 Olympics. I think the BBC did it as a documentary. It's on YouTube too, and it was showing you the process that he goes through to prepare to become a champion. I think it was when he was starting to talk about his legacy, about winning 3 straight Olympic gold medals and becoming a living legend. What nobody sees, everybody sees 9.58 seconds or anything from 10 point whatever down to 9.58 seconds. But nobody sees the early mornings when he's up at UA from 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, running and literally vomiting up himself, lifting weights and recovering from injuries and all manner of different things, sacrificing a life of party and all of these things. Nobody sees that. Everybody only sees the 9.58 seconds. But the fact of the matter is that nothing at all that we accomplish in life can be done without going through a process. Yeah. Nothing at all that we can accomplish in life can be accomplished without going through a process. So we can always see the performance and the glitter and the goal and think that's it. I think it's either Chronics or Junior Gang sing a song that talk about it. Yeah, see the performance and whatever. It's not just the performance; it's what goes into preparing for that performance.
Brandon is saying that most agree with the 10 years plan, but to some it appears Paul will be given a 10-year contract with accountability coming after 10 years. Can you clarify? I am sure sports. Listen, I know Coach Paul Hall. Coach Paul Hall, even for his own, like, he's going to grow, he's going to mature. Why would he sign a 10-year plan? Think about that. Which coach signs a 10-year plan? It doesn't happen in basketball, it doesn't happen in American football, it doesn't happen in the Premier League. The biggest coaches at the biggest nations or the biggest club never sign a 10-year contract.
5 is the maximum.
5 is the maximum.
But man is man.
Even from that perspective, no.
But man is man.
He didn't say 10-year contract. He says a 10-year plan.
And why do we want to associate the plan with the contract? There are
two different things.
Two different things. Because Paul is saying that Jamaica needs a 10-year plan don't mean he has to be the one to articulate the plan or to lead the plan, right? What we need to be discussing is, do we have such a plan? Do we need such a plan?
Yeah.
How can we put such a plan
before you get to the execution?
Exactly.
And the executioner, where is the plan?
Yeah, we say execute.
Right. Yeah. Right. Before you get to who is going to execute it, all right, and all of that. Where is it? Like until there, and that is a key thing. Like you're saying, first, let's develop the plan, and then once the plan is developed, then from there, and like
Garnet.
Yeah. If Paul Hall is not there, any other coach that gets the job should continue the plan. And I think that's what Paul Hall is saying. Paul Hall is saying, listen, whether I'm here after 5 years, after 6 years, after 3, it doesn't matter. There should be a plan, because he's not thinking about he wasn't thinking about Paul Hall. He was thinking about Jamaica's football. It was in reference to Jamaica's football, which is what, sadly, it is what we complain about in terms of our political system, that every time there's a change of leader, there seems to be a change of vision. What Paul Hall is saying, listen, you understand me?
There's no vision in our politics.
Well,
only sight, no vision.
I think what he's saying is that once there is a 10-year vision, a 10-year plan, you find an executioner, someone who will execute it. It could be me for a time and somebody else. But what we should not do is just keep getting people in place.
The crown and anchor cup.
Yeah, without no plans. I'm going to tell you a story. There was a man who went to court. They say he was a Rasta, but I don't like to do that. They always have these funny things. But a ballhead went to court, right? And he committed a crime, and the judge said to him, listen, I don't even know how long you're supposed to stay in jail. So the judge said, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home, you go make a die, which is singular for dice. Shake it. When you come to court, you will shake it. And when you shake it, whatever number it drops on, that's the amount of time that you spend in jail. All right. So the judge gave him no margins, no barriers. It was just unrestrained. The man goes, which most people would do, and he makes a die with no numbers on it. It is blank. Nothing at all. So he comes to court, he shakes it, bam, lifts it up, and he starts smiling because it turns up blank, because all sides.
Yeah, pretty much what I was saying earlier.
Right. So the judge is kind of like, okay, what do I do now? Because I told the man to go and make it. I didn't tell him that it has to have the numbers on it. He makes a blank one. He shakes it in court. So based on what the judge early decision was, the man should spend no time.
Yeah, he was supposed to walk free.
You know what the judge had to do? The judge says, listen, here's what I have to do. You're going to have to stay in jail until some eyes grow on the dice. So what is my point? That is what happened when you don't have a plan. When someone else comes in, everything changes. Because they're unconstrained. There's nothing to guide them. There's nothing to direct them.
Yeah, man. And you know, one of the things that I hope that at the very least the coach is on the call, and I saw Brian Mighton on the call, who's a manager. At the very least the coaches do that. We don't see ourselves as not being a part of the process. We talk about that at the top of the conversation about being a part of but not belonging to. And I know even myself in this moment, we feel that way a lot of the times, that yes, we might be a part of the process, but we don't really belong to it.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's going to change, but I have zero doubt that change is coming. And I have that confidence because I am actually a part of that process. And what have I done? In May last year, I started a WhatsApp group for coaches in Jamaica. I call it Coach Development Jamaica. Right now, we have, I think, 128 members on that chat. And it's not just coaches that reside within the borders of Jamaica, but any coach anywhere in the world who is Jamaican and who I have contact with, or somebody else have contact with, and say, hey, this person wants to be a part of it. So we have coaches in the United Arab Emirates for sure. We have coaches in England, USA, Canada, some of the Caribbean territories, and of course Jamaica. It's not yet where I envision it being, but just the fact that we have a community that we can begin to share, to learn, and learn to share is a step in the right direction for me. And I'm sharing this because I really want every single coach to recognize that they have a part to play. You might not feel as though you belong to the process right now, but you are a part of it. So the sooner we can collectively find a way to belong to it. And that is why I am so in love with the vision that Paul has articulated. Because certainly since I have been involved in football in Jamaica, which is pretty much all of my life, I've never heard anybody else said anything like that. I don't know if it has been said, but certainly this one made public noise.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So it means a lot, because what it says, is that the work that I'm doing at Genesis now can bear fruit. The work that Tom Stroke is doing over Montego Bay and Jane do down on Westmoreland and so forth can bear fruit, and we can now align ourselves to that. If you get what I'm saying, it's not just a flip of the dice anymore, a roll of the dice or a flip of the coin. There is going to be a plan, and we will know what that plan is, and we now know how we fit
into it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What I'll say though is and I say this because coaching sometimes, especially and at the senior level, is such a difficult task. Because there's a need for diplomacy in terms of how you communicate, how you articulate things, because you have all the stakeholders, you have the sponsors, you have the board, the federation, you have the players, you have your family, and you have the fans. And one of the things I will say is that I appreciate that Paul Hall did, that he has made it clear where he wants to go. And I love that. In other words, if I am taken on board, my plan begins with a 10-year plan. And that has been articulated in the public forum. I think, and what you said is right, if other coaches had those things, what they did not do is articulate it so that the masses could hear it. Because I know, for example, that Coach Whitmore wanted to have camps from way back when to work with some of the players every month. But when you don't publicly articulate those things, then here's what. Nobody knows. People, it says, make the vision plain. The Bible tells us that. So what Paul Hall has done, to his credit, he has made it clear and plain. So he who reads it can understand it and run with it. So if somebody asks me tomorrow, what do you think Paul Hall coming to Jamaica to do? Well, the man have a 10-year plan. He hasn't given me all the details, but I know it's supposed to last for 10 years. So if I don't see things going a particular way in 2023, you know what I'm going to say, like they say at Arsenal? Trust the process. Yeah. It's year 3. You trust the process because you were told what the process is. What is the process?
But not only that, man. Let's stick a little pin right there, sir. You know, one of the benefits of a 10-year plan that we seem to be sidestepping or overlooking is that any properly put together 10-year plan will also have evaluation parameters. So in other words, in year 1, what are our performance targets in year 1? Yeah. In year 2, what are our performance targets in year 2? And so on, so on. And then, are we meeting these? What are the gaps, etc., etc.? So check this out now. Assuming that Paul Hall gets the job, and the plan is articulated and set in motion by the JFF hierarchy, and by year 2, it is determined that we are not meeting the performance indicators that we're supposed to be meeting. That would be sufficient reasons to say to Paul Hall that we thank you for your services and your contribution, but in order for us to meet the targets in 10 years' time, we think we need somebody else to lead the process from here onwards. Not all wrong with that,
Yeah, because exactly.
So when Karim Grant come on as the new national team coach, him coming on in the year 3 of the plan, him come in knowing that, So even before Karim get the job, the JFF will be advertising for a head coach, and those who are being interviewed would know that you are coming into this plan that is a 10-year plan. We are now at year 3.
There you go. There you go.
These are the things that we have accomplished to date. These
It
are
keeps everybody
outstanding from year
accountable.
1 and 2. And
It
this is
keeps-
where we have to get to in 3 years' time.
And it keeps everybody accountable. It
Everybody accountable. That is the key
Because
word.
here's the thing,
Accountability.
because Paul Alcan says, listen, these are the things, because here's the plan. The plan is, for example, to have the national team, as an example, playing outside of the national stadium on quality surfaces. All right? That means that the fields must be set up or built. In other words, if those things are not happening, then somebody is held accountable because you took the person on with a plan that included the specific target over a specific time.
Simple.
So you can't say, for example, listen, you know, management, you're not doing your job. When you have not given me the resources to do it, when you accepted that this should have been, this is the plan to you. You understand me?
Yeah, this is
the
part
plan to
of the toolkit that I need to execute.
Exactly. It keeps everybody in football accountable.
100%.
Accountable. And that is what I think we have been lacking for so long in the football. Why we keep and so what we have done since Rene Simoes, you know, is really keep starting over.
Every time.
And we need to stop starting over and start.
Simple. Just stop where we are and start.
Yeah. All right, let me just get a couple of comments. Brendan says, that was the accountability I was referring to. Are we reaching our benchmarks? Well, what we are saying, Brendan, there are no present benchmarks.
Yeah, at least none that we know.
Well, yeah, let me put it that way. The benchmarks have not been clearly articulated. If they are, I don't know what they are. They could be, because I would hate to believe that at any level in Jamaica, we're operating without benchmarks. So I am assuming that somebody knows them, but I don't. So based on, I don't know if Coach Edwards can speak to that, but based on my observation of the football, I can't tell you what are the clear benchmarks or what have they been up to this point, at least for the last 10 years.
It is not clear. It is not clear. You know, at least not to me again. Just be very specific. You know, but one, and again, in terms of accountability, you know, you see, what Paul Hall has done, you know, is he has changed the dynamics. Because, as I've said before, I don't know if any other coach has ever come forward and said, this is the way we're trying to go. Yeah? Now, the fact that he has done it, you see the kind of debate that we have already started because of that. Now, just imagine if that plan is literally rolled out, and we know that in year 1, the team will move from, what we rank now, 57? From 57 to 51, just for argument's sake, on the FIFA rankings. Our U17, all our youth teams will play 8 international friendlies in year 1. At the end of year 1, the whole country now have to ask no question, yes or no, whether or not the targets are being met.
Yeah, and you can go somewhere and read it. You can go on the JFF website or somewhere and just...
everybody in media would know exactly what they are supposed to be asking questions about in that specific regard.
We're ranked at 64 now.
Right. So you can just simply make incremental targets. Okay. Yeah. In year 1, we want to move that ranking up to by 10 points.
Yeah.
You know, just simple things. But at least everybody would know what we're moving towards. And that is the critical thing.
Yeah. Triple E says most organizations develop a strategic plan in which their leaders define their vision for the future and identify the organization goals and objectives. This is what Paul Hall is trying with us. Totally agree. And then Brain Drain says, what is the plan? Who creates it? Can we emulate developed countries? I think, so I'll probably take it from the last question to the first. So I think, firstly, I always tell people that we need to look at transferable principles, because everything must be in its context. We may not be able to do what the Belgians did, what the Germans did, but there are principles that they would have operated by that can be applied in our context, because we don't have the surfaces, possibly the infrastructure, the financial resources, or the passion for the game as some of these nations have to kind of do it. So a guy who is coaching in probably one of the inner city communities, he will get the same result but use different drills because he has 6 footballs for 30 players. So the drill that I'm doing, I have 1 for every player. He does a drill with 5 to, you understand me? 5, because he only has 6 balls. He has to use groups of 5 when I can go groups of 2. But at the end, we achieve the ultimate goal. So different contexts. So that's number one. So I think we need to look at modules that fits our context and our culture, our style as a people, the things that are Jamaican or Caribbean.
It must be relevant to our environment, put simply.
Right. Transferable principles and concepts. There you go. And apply those, right? As to who creates the plan, I think is the next question. So I take it. And then you can, who creates? I think the plan, it must be collective, but whoever is going to be a head coach must be instrumental in it.
Everybody has a role to play.
Yeah.
If it is going to be done properly, put that in quotation mark, then it should make allowance for all stakeholders to contribute.
Yeah. What is the plan? Right, like I said before, right now, I don't know what the plan is. I can tell you the duration of a plan that Paul Hall has. That's 10 years.
The plan is to create a plan.
So I don't know if you want to add to anything I've said or to take away from, but that is...
No, man, you have articulated it quite well, and I've just chimed in with my little 2 cents here and there. I have actually answered it pretty much the same way I would. The only thing you didn't really answer was the plan, and I'm just being, facetious, for want of a better word, by saying the plan is to create a plan.
Yes. All right, look, I think I had a comment here that I wanted you to. This one here by Christopher Carroll. Welcome to the show. He says, winning is truly
concerted
process of consistent discipline for a desired outcome. I think that is concerted process for consisting of discipline for
a desired outcome.
Which is true. Listen, again, you have to clearly define your win. If Rossies or say Mushet have athletes at champs, Steertown Academy, let's use a school. Their objective is not to go to champs to win it, boys or girls, because they don't produce enough athletes from the school now. So what is a win for them? A win for them is if we can get 1 medalist, even if it's a bronze,
get into a finals.
Get into a final, it creates a buzz in the school for more athletes. So a win is different for everybody. So you have to clearly define what is a win for us. And you have to know what that win is. Because what's a win for me may not be a win for you. You may want the trophy at the end. You may want to win the Premier League in Jamaica for 10 years. All I want to do is to get 2 footballers into major markets in that same 10 year. So you get 10 trophies and I get 2 players playing in Europe. And I think I've won. You celebrate and I celebrate. I may not cry because I lost the Premier League, but it may be disappointing if I don't get any players into Europe, because that is my win. So win can be different for different people.
And in the context of sports, as it is in most of life, only one person can win a trophy in a competition. Yeah, only one person can win the trophy in the English Premier League, in the JPL, in the Costa Cup, in Manning Cup, whatever. So, what does the other competing teams consider to be wins. I saw an article in the newspaper just before Champ started. A young man who's going to be representing Holy Trinity in the 400 meters, and it, according to him and the coach, him just getting to a finals would be the biggest thing for Holy Trinity in over a decade.
I'm gonna give you a big one. There's a Calabar from athlete from Calabar called Newbie, who
he ran the other night.
He ran the other night. He was the athlete who was shot
by, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago.
Yes.
On Red Hills Road.
On Red Hills Road by the police. I don't know how the incident happened. So for him, the man celebrated the fact that he advanced. To him, coming back from that is a win.
Big win.
He did it. The man didn't even make the finals.
But just the fact that you could recover from a gunshot wound to come and compete, it's just that alone by itself is amazing in a virgin. That by itself is amazing, and this youth could go on to become an Olympic medalist or champion for Jamaica. And going back to where we started the conversation, if this young man was not in a good environment, in a good place, that we all know Calabar is, certainly as it relates to track and field sports, right? He would not have had the fortitude, or he would not on his own emerge from that disappointment, that injury to the actually compete.
Support and all of that.
Listen, man, that means monies have been spent to get him medical treatment too.
And meant emotional
support, psychological support.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's a very holistic thing, and I'm really happy for the opportunity that we have these conversations, and we just hope that by having these conversations, we are reaching other people who can create a little change in their own little space.
Yeah, and listen, I want people to know that it is okay to disagree, to have your own opinion. You know, what we're saying is not the way. It is just a way.
Simple.
Right? I always tell people that what we talk about, this is not the way. It is a way. And so you have the opportunity to look at other ways and see what fits your context, because maybe what we are saying don't fit the context that you operate in. You understand me? But find the transferable things. Maybe you hear something and say, you know what? Come to think of it, I can't remember who I was speaking to, but it was a coach, and he used the same example. He says, listen, when coaching is done and those things are taught, coaches are taught to really take things in the context and culture that they operate in. Can't remember what book, but they were talking about the same thing. So if you have 20 players on the training ground, right, and it's all dirt, and I am up at Ballers Academy with 20 players and I have 20 football. You are down on some dirt track somewhere with same 20 players, same age group, and you only have 4 balls on a dirt surface. You can still get results, but you may not be able to do the same things that they do as ballers.
You can't just say Genesis, because it's a good example. It's a good example.
Yeah, Genesis. Sorry. Oh my.
Yeah. Dirt. I want a piece of dirt to the pan out of highway out of Manchester.
There you go. So you may go to the coaching courses, but when you come, you say, okay, all right, how can I implement this? I can't forget my friend from Italy. He says, listen, what are you doing? You're reading these books and you're doing these things with your players, but it's what the book says. But what the book says don't apply to your culture.
It's not environmentally applicable.
Yeah, he was saying, I sent all this information from Italy. You can't do that. And he was basically saying, you can't do that in Jamaica. So and he said, listen, you know what is the greatest thing you can do? Take what I do and even use your imagination. Create your own drills, write them down so that you can keep doing them. So you add to it, you take out, because it's a completely different context. And so that's one of the things I've learned, that when I see somebody that drill, I look at it and then I create my own, because they know why they're using those things. Yeah,
man.
but what good conversation as usual, man.
Wondered if any of the participants had any other questions or comments that they wanted to get feedback on though before we close out.
Yes. Any other question? Any other comments? Let me see. I want to make sure. I see Kareem Grant said earlier that it's amazing how Jamaica don't have a football plan, and there are a lot of Jamaican around the Caribbean creating their football plans. Well, if you don't have a plan, you can't create one. That's the first thing. You have to have a plan to create a plan.
No, you don't. I think what I understand Karim to be saying, is that there are Jamaicans working in other football association around the Caribbean and helping those countries to develop their own football plans. I think that's what I understand from him.
Yeah, but that is true. But do we have a culture though that wants to do that? Do we have the kind of culture that is into long-term planning? I get the feeling like as a society, we don't have time. Like, people want everything now. Like what Triple E said earlier, which is Jamaica society is short-term goals.
Hey, remember, man, Vision 2030 is the first ever, and I put that in quotation marks, long-term development plan for the country.
Yeah.
And even with Vision 2030, I can't recall the last time we have gotten an update as to where are we with meeting these targets. All right, so yes, we have the plan, but who's being held accountable and along the way? So these are the kinds of things that we're talking about, that from a cultural standpoint, we have to do what the Chinese have done. Educate the children below. Because some of us are just too stuck in our ways already. We can't change again.
Yeah. There is one for you, Coach Edwards.
That Triple E, that is not for me to decide, beyond the fact that it's either I am interested or I'm not interested. And I have already made it abundantly clear that if I am called and we can agree, then definitely I am interested.
Yeah. Any other questions, and then we will close with Mr. Edwards. He hasn't showed us any clips yet enough what is going on down there at Genesis, but he's going to tell us.
Man, all of the clips them up on the Instagram and the Facebook, man.
Oh yeah, you did give that information, but remind them again. For those, remind those who are watching how you can get connected to the Genesis Academy down there in Williamsfield, Manchester.
No, man, Mandeville.
Oh, man, it is in Mandeville.
Yeah, we just step on the highway, the Winston Jones Highway.
Winston Jones, that Williamsfield.
Yeah.
Is Williamsfield in Manchester?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
It's 5 minutes out of town, out of Mandeville, roughly. On the highway.
But isn't Williamsfield close to the Winston Jones Highway, right off the highway?
Yeah, the highway comes between.
I wasn't way off, man.
We just get more specific.
All right.
But Genesis is actually gonna be hosting a tournament on the 30th of April at Manchester High School. We're hoping to have 8 teams in under 8, under 11, and under 14 respectively. So it's gonna be 24 teams on the day, a one-day tournament. And so far it's looking pretty exciting. So anybody at all who is interested can come out and watch and support. And if you want to make a contribution in any form, also, whether it's just a ball or a boots or just anything, it don't matter. We always welcome that. Because we do have quite a number of kids who are coming out barefooted and all of these things. So yeah.
All right. Awesome. And then not this Friday, but we'll be on, because we are on every other Friday at 10. So mark it on your calendar. We will be having a next informative, interesting dialogue on football. right? Where we discuss moving forward, the best way for Jamaica. And we don't have all the answers. We're just sharing the little knowledge that we have, and so you can learn. I like that quote. Learn. How you go again? Now? Learn to and
Learn to share and share to
share
learn.
to learn. There you go. So that's what we're doing: learning to share and sharing for learning.
Yeah, man.
So,
So all the persons with their ideas and their thoughts and their criticisms, share, because it's not, as long as your intention is well intended, if I can put it that way, or well purposed, share. And even if you intend to tear down things too, you can share, because we can still take them stones and build and use them to build.
Yeah. We can be like the donkey. Remember, they were trying to bury the donkey alive, and
Yeah,
every
man.
time they dug the hole, put the donkey in, and every time they throw dirt on the donkey, he just shook it off
Just climb up.
until he was the hole was
Yeah,
covered and
man.
the donkey
So
was on the top. So
every contribution is useful and helpful. It's just for us to take out of it what will serve our purpose best, and then leave the rest.
yeah, man. All right, Coach Edwards, all the best to you. All the best to our great Arsenal tomorrow. They take on
Jano, may I
Brighton.
tell you, we get a buffing.
Oh, geez, and it's not looking too good enough because
the injuries, eh?
Yeah.
I look funny that I said Jano, but
Thomas Partey's gone, Kieran Tierney's gone, and Tommy Yassi look like they're all gone for the season.
Yeah, man. But out of adversity, usually sometimes bring forth some special jewels, And for some strange reason, with Thomas Partey, I know we're going to miss him, but I feel like somehow it going to bring something out of this little youngster, Lokongo. Because he's an extremely special player still,
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, man.
We'll see.
And of course, my manager will get a chance to show off how great he is as well.
We'll see. Yeah, but blessings as usual. All the best
Yeah,
to
man.
you.
Give thanks again for the opportunity, and give thanks
man.
to all the people who contributed to the conversation. For those who might not have said anything that we were able to mention, we hope that next time we catch you along the way there. Everybody give thanks and tread safe. No?
Yeah, man. All right, Coach Edwards, blessings. All right, so there you have it, people. Our football conversation this morning. Management and Coach Andrew Edwards. Wonderful conversation. I'm glad that you participated. I'm glad that you watched. If you have not yet, as usual, we ask you to hit the like button. We don't normally stop our videos to ask you to do that, but at the end we do that. So hit the like button. If you have not yet subscribed to the platform, please go ahead and do so. And finally, make sure you share the content. It's how you support I Am Sure Sports. Thanks to every single one of you for the super sticker that came in from Garnet. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support for the channel. For all the likes and all the comments, we thank you as well. And a big thank you to Coach Andrew Edwards. We have our JPL show that starts at 2:30 this afternoon. It's going to be a special one, so please join us for that. I am Manningsman, and we are over, and we are whooshing out of here.
Yo, watch about dog, SK New Erdis, the body out there, Sniper King I represent for I Am Sure Sports. You get to me, I say, when you want the latest news and sports and updates and all of that, check out I Am Sure Sports. You know the thing goes in. Remember, you cover the whole island. Remember Kingston, Westmoreland, Galchester, Ocho-Rios, Galtigo Bay, everywhere. I Am Sure Sports, check it out for the latest news and latest updates. Sniper King I represent. Where them feel like, yeah, someone on for the food from we young, from we day, you need height. I Am Sure Sports. Yeah, dog.